General CBM must use his own discretion. So also the inspections which we conducted, it shows we are doing something in the docket.
General, you should not take this personally. It's not you being criticized at all, and let alone personally.
Okay.
What General Mkhwanazi was talking about was that no investigations were taking place. Is that not so? That's what he meant in his media statement. Is that media briefing, rather? Is that not so?
Commissioner will take that.
So
that the investigations
so
were never conducted.
In that sense, the dockets were gathering dust. That is what General Mkhwanazi meant. Do you accept that? You see, General Mkhwanazi's statement would still have been true even if someone, maybe a general worker, would pick up the dockets and dust them off every day so that there isn't literally dust on them. But they would be gathering dust in the sense that they were not investigated. That is all that General Mkhwanazi meant. Do you accept that?
I will accept that, Commissioner,
Thank you.
If you say
Thank you.
Tim.
Thank you.
And then General, your reference is made at paragraph 34 to the criticism that there were 5 warrants of arrest issued in the docket, but you there talk about what your audit found. Can you explain what you mean there?
When the team conducted the audit, commissioners, they found 2 warrants of arrest agreed to by the prosecutor and magistrate on 2nd October 2024. It was in Dwendwe case 127 of 10/2023. These warrants of arrest were never executed. They were there in Dwendwe dockets, but they were never executed. And the commander wrote that the suspect must be circulated. The procedure, as I know, it is when the investigating officer received a signed warrant of arrest, actually it's not supposed to be in there. You don't put it there in the docket. You receive a warrant, you have to go and execute. He must proceed to execute the warrant by first tracking and tracing the suspect or suspect. If there are no leads regarding the suspect whereabouts, the investigating officer would then complete an SAP 55 for purposes of circulation and send this to the Criminal Record Center for further circulation in the database of wanted circulated persons.
Can you please explain the concept of circulating a suspect? What does that mean?
Commissioners, in this Ndwendwe, there is a warrant of arrest in the docket. So the commander, instead of egging the investigating officer to trace the suspect, then when we went through the diary, it never indicates where the suspect were traced. The main purpose of signing a warrant of arrest is to execute. Execute meaning you must go and trace the suspect. So this one, it came, is attached, and then during the case, and the commander just say circulate. How can you circulate a suspect who was never traced?
It's exactly that circulating that I'm interested in. What does it mean to circulate a suspect?
Okay.
How do you do that? Okay,
Commissioner, when we circulate a suspect, you complete this SAPS 55 for a purpose that there will be a hit if the suspect is arrested somewhere. Then in the system, because now it's captured in the system, it will be a hit. Then the investigating officer in that particular, he will inform this one that your suspect is arrested here. Come in. That's the main purpose of circulating.
Thank you, thank you.
General, and then you deal with one other docket at paragraph 35, where there was an unsigned warrant.
Commissioners, in this one is still warrant of arrest Furthermore, there was one docket where the warrant of arrest was completed by the investigating officer, but not signed by the prosecutor or a magistrate, meaning the warrant was never issued. So it's a warrant of arrest J50, completed, but not signed by the prosecutor or magistrate. So it's just a J50 there in the docket. I'm just responding to what General Mkhwanazi was alluding, that there were 5 warrants of arrest which were imminent. We delayed because docket were gathering dust. That is why this warrant of arrest were never executed. So we found these types of warrant, the 2 which were signed, the other one where it was not signed. Those are the only warrant which we found in the dockets.
And General, earlier you explained that one of the purpose of doing the inspection was to identify low-hanging fruit so that if there's anything that needs to be done urgently, that can be attended to. Is there a reason why these ones where there were either a need for circulation or perhaps getting the warrant signed, why those weren't given priority while the administrative processes for getting funding were going on?
Actually, commissioners, we planned it in that way from the onset. When they were doing inspection, then they're bringing me some heads up. I even suggested, how about maybe before we look into the funding, we look into our own monies, the one which I'm having, then we go and execute on especially these 2 warrant of arrest. So that, at least because you can see they are there, and they were issued last year, October, the 2nd of October 2024, if I'm not mistaken. They were issued last year, now is this year. They've never been executed. We thought it in that line that these low-hanging fruits, if we got money, we are going to start first, like the one which I mentioned, where I said 23 suspect were witness identified suspect. Those were the first dockets which we wanted to start with, actually.
So General, the question still remains, why wasn't this done if that could have been done while you were waiting for the big money issue to be settled?
Commissioners, when we look into our coffers, especially my budget, we didn't have enough money to embark and conduct this investigation. We wanted to go there, but because of money, because finance office, they are the one which will guide you. Immediately when you write there that this docket come, you have to outlay what is happening. This docket come from the PKTT. They all know that there's money being allocated to PKTT. Then we have to explain. That is why now we took this route of requesting for an extra budget.
So, General, these dockets, at least the 2 that you've given dates for, the October one, October 2024, we know there's a period of about 2 months before the PKTT is disbanded. You are saying in that period, in that window period before they were disbanded, these warrants should have been executed in that period.
By the PKTT.
Yes, I understand that.
Yes,
you're saying in that 2 months period.
Yes, before, yes.
Then the PKTT is disbanded on the 31st, at least that's the directive. So for all intents and purposes, as far as the minister is concerned, it seems that from the 31st of December or from the 1st of January, there's no PKTT to speak of. I guess that's why General Sibia instructs that the files must come back, the dockets must come to Johannesburg, to Pretoria rather. Now, what that means, and this speaks to an earlier point by Commissioner Khumalo, that because of this decision, we know now that from January up to whenever these dockets were returned to KZN, these 2 warrants were never executed. On your explanation, because you were waiting for a budget.
Yes, commissioners.
Thank you.
General, just to complete the point, it was also not possible for you to speak to your provincial counterpart. I think is it Major General Gopal?
Yes, Major General Gopal.
In the same component, especially for the urgent matters to be attended to.
Commissioners, really, we never communicated with them. This is the outcome of the inspection, and then we never communicated. Up until we finished by 30th May, we have never communicated and brought to their attention that we found 2 warrants of arrest in the docket. How about maybe you expect that we never communicated with them?
General, we're going to move to the next topic, being the allegations of defeating the ends of justice. And there you speak about a visit. You first talk about the funding request that was sent. Do you want to explain what happened with that funding request? That was sent to the National Commissioner to request funding for these investigations.
Commissioners,
Maybe, General, before you answer that, just keep the question in mind, but what I'm going to ask you is related in a way. The information note that we looked at, MCM2, that we looked at earlier, under recommendations, you've got 2 recommendations, and the one is the funding issue recommendation, and then the first one, though, is that you recommend that the dockets be returned to KZN for investigation. And then that's the first recommendation, and then the next recommendation you make is for funding, that a dedicated budget be given to the national team. Why, in your thinking, was that the first preference, your first preference, that the dockets be returned to KZN? Well, why was that your first preference?
Commissioners, in this one, I was recommending that if maybe we are not going to get the budget, let the docket go back to their where they belong, because the PKTT already got funding, or they are budgeted, inclusive of this 121 docket which are under investigation. And then the next recommendation is the one of the funding from the National Commissioner.
How did you think about it? I mean, at this point, this is a memo in June, or an information note in June, so we know that the PKTT rather is disbanded by this point, at least according to the Minister and General Sibia. It is disbanded, and yet you are saying the dockets must go back to KZN. Can you just explain how you thought it would play out? And I do understand you're saying because the PKTT were already familiar with the dockets, but it is now disbanded.
Commissioners, when I wrote this, the PKTT is not disbanded. According to me, it was never disbanded.
Okay.
It was partially, because it was the first phase of investigation where the dockets were brought. But they are still operating, and they were still operating whilst I was, and there was no formal directive for us to say that now the PKTT is no more. So I was just making these recommendations that if maybe the National Commissioner then can't apportion some budget for us, then this docket, they must go back to the PKTT, because they were still operating.
Because practically they were still operating.
Yeah, practically they were still operating.
Thank you.
General, so at this stage, the funding request had not been considered by General Sibia, and it hadn't been approved by the National Commissioner. That's what you say at the top of the page on page 14. And you then further say that you could not investigate until you received the additional funding.
Commissioners, the first information note, the one which we're discussing now, it was revised because it's myself who signed it. Then later it was sent back for ratification. But the signed one, myself, I was not in the office. I was in another meeting. It was signed by Brigadier Khopodithata on my behalf. So this one is the first one where myself I've signed it, but it was never signed by the Divisional Commissioner because it was sent back from the office of the Divisional Commissioner for some ratification. We just put it here to show that actually we started this request for funding on the 23rd of June.
And then, General, you earlier in your testimony, if you look at the information note MCM 3 at page 17, which would have been the initial one, and the corrected one is at page 19, MCM 4. You'll recall I asked you about paragraph 2.1 in a different document. That would have been the summary of the audit findings that you provided about the background section where you say that Lieutenant General Sibiya was the acting commissioner. This is found again at this information note, which you prepared in June 23, and then again in the revised one, which was signed by Brigadier Khopodithata on the 1st of July.
Yes, Commissioner.
And is it that at this point your team was operating under the impression that General Sibiya was the acting National Commissioner at the time?
Commissioners, I explained earlier that in all the correspondence we wrote General Sibiya as acting. He also brought to my attention, that actually it was not himself that he was acting. Actually, it was General Mkhwanazi. But in most of the information note and the reports, we wrote General Sibiya, but not to portray or to bring to the commission that General Sibiya is the one who was acting. Actually, it was General Mkhwanazi. But most of the reports, even the National Commissioner signed one of the requests for funding, where we also mentioned that it was General Sibiya.
Thank you, General. And then you deal with a request, a visit and a request to take photographs of the dockets, and you were told about a case at paragraph 38. Can you summarize the events? You've set them out in a lot of detail in the statement. So if you can summarize what happened there with Brigadier Kunene.
Commissioners, can I proceed with paragraph 38, reading it? Or just to summarize?
Just to summarize.
Commissioners, on the 22nd of July, I think it was 2 days. It was 2 days after the proclamation, if I'm not mistaken. Let me go through this paragraph, then I will summarize it, Commissioners, with your permission. On the 15th of July, I received a call from General Mangali. He is the component head of Criminal Record and Crime Scene Management, National Office. Then he said that he received a call from General Mkhwanazi that he must avail a photographer for standby, and then he must take photos of the dockets, and then we must also furnish statement to Brigadier Kunene. Actually, let me speak. General Mangwale mentioned only about the taking of the photos. Then the following day, I communicated with Brigadier Khopodithata because the docket, they are lying in Brigadier Khopodithata's floor, second floor in the strong room. Then Brigadier Khopodithata also confirmed that he communicated with Brigadier Kunene. So Brigadier Kunene left KZN on Monday, and then we saw him the following day on this On the 16th, I think it was around 11 o'clock, it was myself. Before Brigadier Kunene came, I was with Brigadier Khupethat and Colonel Mkhwanazi, but Colonel Mkhwanazi got some commitment work, related commitment. Brigadier Kunene came, and then he explained the purpose of his visit. He said that General Mkhwanazi instructed him to come and take some photos, and then the strong room must be considered as a crime scene. We must condole of that strong room as a crime scene. Then I asked Brigadier Kunene, crime scene, what crime is it committed when we condole? Because we have been going through that. If it's a crime scene, we have already tampered with it. I don't understand the logic of condoning of the strong room as a crime scene. Then he said, this is the instruction which he was given. Then from there, through our engagement, then I said, what is the interest of taking photos? Then he said, no, he was just given the tasking by General Mkhwanazi. And then from there, I said, let me call General Sibia, because General Sibia by then was still in office. I called General Sibia. General Sibia said that, let me find out from the commission. I don't know whom did he call. He said, let me find out from the commission whether photos